I want to start and talk about adopting to our changing market. Now, does anybody here think we're in the same market this year we were last year? I mean, does anyone think we're in the same market in October that we were in January, February, or March? Okay. Now, all the economists that I know said this was going to be another great year, and they're all adjusting now. Okay. CAR just adjusted and said that we're going to have single-digit depreciation this year, and they're projecting for next year 8.8% price depreciation. That's their projection. I don't know where they're going to go, but that's their projection. Okay. Last week, we got back from CR last week. A lot of our team went. And what do you think the number one thing that we were talking about? Everybody was talking about all the breakout session. About half of everything was based upon the changing market and what's going on, what's going to happen. And so now, in the past years, it's been probably the past 5 years or so, it's all been on technology. So I looked down the agenda on both days to find out technology. There was one small breakout session in the smallest room they had for people to come and share ideas of technology. Nothing else. So I think they've finally come to the realization that all the technology they have out there is out there, and we know what it is, and we have access to it. And so there's nothing brand new, just to let you know if you didn't go to Expo, there's nothing brand new that's going to be out there that's just around the corner that's going to totally change the industry, and you got to get it, okay? We're still back to MLS service and iPhones, and those are still the most important things. But they did talk a lot about this market, okay? And for the past several years, like I said, it was technology, now they changed. So I've been in real estate since 1979. A couple of people here been in a long time. Pam, how long?
78.
Sally?
85.
Okay, Linda, pretty long, right?
88.
88. Okay, these are like, and so guess what? We have seen several cycles. I counted that we're in our 5th cycle right now since I've been in real estate since late 1979. And a cycle usually lasts from 7 to 10 years, and we're in another part of the cycle. This is the cycle that where prices level out or go down, okay, and that takes place for a while, and then we start a new cycle. I consider this always kind of the end of a cycle. I always consider the start of another cycle is when prices start to level out and our market starts to get some, some minimal growth as we go back. So, but here's the key thing. To really adapt or to be successful in real estate, you need to adapt to every market. Because if you don't, guess what? When the next market comes and you don't adapt, then it kills you. It's kind of like if you're a hitter and you can hit fastballs and you're the greatest hitter there is out there, but you can't hit a curveball, well, the pitchers are going to find out pretty soon that you can't hit a curveball. And they're going to all throw you curveballs. You won't see any fastballs. Well, this market is kind of like we're being thrown curveballs. It's a little bit different. But for the people that have been here, for the ones that, the Pat Duffys and the different people in the room, we know how to adjust to these markets. We just go back to what we did 30 years ago, right, Pat, in the market when it changed. And we added a little new flair to new things that have come up since then. And we're able to adjust, and we're able to be first down the mountain. There's an old saying in business, you want to be first up the mountain and first down the mountain. First up the mountain is get there before everybody else does with what you're doing. When the market changes, you want to be first down the mountain. And so that's where we're at right now. So last year's market, if you listed your home, you'd put it in on Friday, you would get 150 showings over the weekend, you'd make all these appointments, and Sunday night you would meet, and you'd have 10 or more offers, and you'd take the best offer over ask price, and you're in escrow, and you close in 30 days. You tell the buyer, you don't ask for any repairs, you drop all contingencies. I mean, it's just, there was no buyer equality, right? Just none. And yet, if you wanted to buy a home, you had to play the game. The game has changed. It's changed quite a bit. In fact, last year, just to tell you a story of a friend of mine who's a real estate agent, some of you know this person, he told his wife, Katie, that they were going to buy a home last year, and they had this one specific home that they absolutely loved. And they said, don't worry, there's other offers on it, but we're getting it. Listed at 1.1, and the reason we're getting it, because we're going in at 1.4. $300,000 over ask. He ended up being the 3rd best offer, okay? The best offer was 1.5 all cash. and 1.4 with a big down payment, non-contingent, lost. He was in 3rd place. Now, that was even extreme in last year's market, but there are stories out there that are real stories. Those stories are going to be behind us completely. If anyone has a story like that in the last 3 months, I'd love to hear it, okay? So, again, now, Angie and I and many of our team, we went to a Tom Ferry. It was about a 2.5-hour talk that he did. It was a seminar, and it was based on the changing market. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of, I'm going to give you 2.5 hours of Tom Ferry in 2 minutes. Okay, so everything that I think was good out of that. Now I shouldn't, I should say there's a lot of good stuff, but the points that really made a lot to me, that I made notes on, I'll share them with you. Okay. First of all, he made the following statement. The next 2 years is going to be a slugfest. Okay? It's going to be a slugfest. This market will punish many and richly reward a few. And I really look at that as everything he was saying, there's nothing I disagreed with. Not that if I disagreed with it, then he was wrong. But I was really in sync, and I think that all the agents that have been in several markets here, what he said we would all agree with. The next 2 years is going to be a slugfest. The market will punish many and richly reward a few. 30% less business, and he projects that about 30% of the agents will not be in the business in 2 years. Okay. Now, I don't know where those numbers at. I do agree that it's going to be something like that. I don't know if it's going to be more or less or whatever, but that is going to be part of it. And here's the other thing he said I thought was really good. I'd never really heard this before, but it makes sense. And this is a direct quote, by the way. Growth is done in crappy markets. That's what he said. Direct quote. Growth is done in crappy markets. And that really is true. And that this is the time for people that are good to get more traction than ever, and you will gain market share. Market share means you make as much as you used to make, but you've gained market share. In other words, you get more than your percentage that you used to get. However, when the market shifts, you not only have market share, now that expands into exploding business. Okay, so this is the time. It's kind of like when you're doing a marathon run. They always say that where you win the race is on the uphills. Okay, so look at this as an uphill, although I think in some ways it's not an uphill. But this is where we gain the ground in these markets. So, and then he said, quote, it's time to grow or die. Pretty harsh, but grow or die, okay? So you just got 2 hours of Tom Ferry in 2 minutes, okay? Anything else that I left out from Tom Ferry, guys, that you were there? Anything else that he said? He said a lot of great things. Yeah.
I thought the one comment he made that was interesting is he said that with the past market, he said right now 80% of the people who bought a home 2 years ago don't necessarily like their house. They just settled. And so I think there's some people that are not happy, but then you have, are they married to the interest rate more than their property?
Right. Well, and what would we tell them? Okay, you date the interest rate and you marry the house. So there you go. Okay, so anything else that Tom said that I kind of missed that was important to you guys? He had 2 hours of stuff, way more than this, but I didn't want to make today just Tom Ferry retold again.
He did say to be successful, talk to the most people, follow up the longest, make appointments.
Yep, absolutely. And here's the thing, it's still a people business. He was very clear, it's still a people business. He uses marketing interchangeably with prospecting. And so every time he said marketing, when he actually defined it later, it was really actually prospecting and marketing combined kind of. So that's how he kind of uses that word. So he's talking about really prospecting is still a key. So, yeah.
He also talked about videos.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of videos.
So I got to tell you, so, we talked about websites here earlier. And if anyone is on my team, they're tired of me hearing about videos. I go back to 2012 when I said, let's all do videos. We wanted to do, I put scripts for 10 videos for people that would walk their clients all the way through the transaction. From the time, whether it was an open house or once they're in escrow, or what's happening at the appraisal, the third party, what we do at the walkthrough. I had 10 of them. And 2 people on the team actually shot all the videos and started sending those out. And when they did that, we found out that the open rate was 4 times on every email they sent out. Now understand, they're sending it to husband and wife in most cases, and it's open 4 times. That means, okay, that if it's sent to a couple, they both open it twice. Now, you don't get that kind of open rate on anything. I mean, just nothing. But the reason you do is because, is their house important to them? Absolutely, okay? And do they know you? Yes. And so they open it, not only do they watch it, they want to watch it again. So he really did talk about videos a lot. I probably should have put that in my notes because I'm such a fan of videos too. I strongly recommend you do videos. And for those of you that do not have a sizzle video on your website, you're missing it. You're missing it because you get the chance that when somebody meets you or they're looking for you, or they're looking at you as a possible agent, you get a video that gets to take them to the next level. So that's why I think it's so important. Angie?
Just a couple other things that I made notes on. One of the things he really drove home is he really felt listings were going to be the backbone of the business going forward, which they kind of always have been.
Yep.
But even more so now than ever before. So he really felt that was an important thing. And then also he talked a bit about, as far as the marketing, Google Ads being one of the best places for ROI. And that everybody should claim their Google business page. If you haven't done that, you should totally do that. And it's probably one of the best places to post your reviews too.
Yeah, we had lunch a few months ago with an agent friend of ours from up in Westlake Village, and he totally turned his business around with Google Ads, right?
Yep.
Totally turned it around. From doing probably a couple $100,000 a year to doing over $1 million a year, just in Google Ads. So I don't know that much about them, so I'm not going to talk about them. I just can give you one success story, okay? So there you go. We got Tom Ferry, kind of what's happening with that. I think he was right on with the market as we would expect him to be. So this year's market, okay, I went in and just made a quick, I don't even remember the criteria I used. Look at all the down arrows. Look at all the down arrows. That's what we're seeing. So in March, over 40% of all listings reduced their asking price before they sold. In June, over 50%, and in September, over 60% of all listings are reducing their price before they sold. Do you see a trend? Okay, the trend is that we are not in the same market we used to be. A year ago, we could put it on, and if we were overpriced, who cared? The market would catch up. We're in just the opposite right now. I believe we are in a declining market where prices are actually depreciating. Okay, and we're going to talk about how you handle that in a minute. But so you take a totally different outlook at that. So the average market time in January is 24 days. This is according to Stephen Thomas. It's now 77 days. That's an over a 300% increase, okay, in 10 months. In 1992, the average market time, I don't know the exact number, so I'm just going to throw out, it was over 200 days by quite a bit. Over 200 days. So if we had another 300% increase from now, we would now be over 200. Okay, the same increase we've had in the last 10 months, in the next 10 months, we will be where we were in 1992. I do not believe we're going to hit that number, but because I think we have a lot of strength in the market that we didn't have back then. But just to give you an idea, we're going to have longer market times. So, which is a really good thing for good agents, okay? So what does CAR say? Okay, CAR revised their forecast from this year, saying prices will likely experience slight depreciation, and they're more specific as they go, just amended, like it said earlier, their forecast to a depreciation of prices 8.8% in 2023. They also forecast the sales to be down 25% from 2021. Okay, 2021 they use as the base. Now, if you looked at that, because 2022 is going to be, we start off pretty good. That's probably more than 25% in the second half of the year as we move into the new market. Because remember, we had 3 months of still the same market. So what Tom Ferry's talking about, 30%, I think it probably blends in with what CAR is saying. We're roughly going to be 30% less in the total amount of sales. By the way, our market of how we do as realtors, I'm not talking about the public, but how we do is always this equation. The lesser amount of sellers or buyers whichever it is sets our market. Because we can have a jillion buyers like last year, but only a few sellers. Guess how many homes we sell, like we did last year, okay? Now, we can have all the buyers in the world, I mean all the sellers in the world, but we only have so many buyers like 1992, guess what? We don't have that great. So we're gonna see markets, and I think the next 5 to 7 years, that will be far greater for us as agents than we saw in 2022. Because we thought that was a great market, and it was in a lot of ways. You could sell listings right away, but there wasn't enough inventory for it to be a big numbers year. We're gonna see numbers bigger than that in the next few years. Just my opinion, okay? I have nothing to back that up with, but that's just my thing. So now, I love our current market. I absolutely love it, okay? The market I liked the least was the one where I didn't matter. Like last year, did it really matter who was the listing agent? It did matter, but it didn't matter as much because whoever put that listing up, as long as they, I mean, I don't know how you could have messed it up enough not to sell it in the first week. I mean, it was almost hard, right? There's a few people that did it, okay? But it was really hard to do, okay? Or else the property had to be really a mess. But now it makes a difference. And that's why I like this market. There's a lot of reasons. And I shared this with our team the other day. So buyers do not have to compete with 10 other offers. Isn't that a great thing for buyers? We have a couple people on our team that are more buyers agents and sellers agents. They're having great years. They're loving it. And they have come alive. Because guess what? They have buyers and they're loving it. Okay. Sellers are more likely to make repairs or give credits to buyers. When was the last time you had a seller make an actual credit or a repair? We're starting to get some of those. And here's the thing, a good seller's agent or listing agent makes a difference. And that really is good when you make a difference to your client. I don't mean a little difference. There's always a difference, even in last year's market. But you make a big difference. In fact, you probably are the difference. And that's what's so important about it. The subpar agents will become leaving our industry. Isn't it nice that the people we're going to be working with in 2 years from now are going to be better than the group we have right now? Because the people that will survive are the people that are good at what they do. And again, I think last year we had a lot of complaints out there with, I can't believe this agent. But the idea is that anybody could get the job done. Okay, it's different now. When you do a good job, the buyers and sellers are going to appreciate you more. Many sellers will be job transfers right now, divorces, or they've got the property through a death. And so that means when they are listing, guess what? They're committed to selling. When you have people that have to sell because of a divorce or because of a job change, or they got the property and Prop 19 is going to hammer them if they get reassessed on it, those people usually make a decision and they are going to sell. So it's not a matter of if they're going to sell, it's a matter of when they're going to sell. Okay? Prop 19 is going to require those getting the property. This is going to help us a lot, by the way, guys. The people that get the property through death now either have to live in it as their primary residence, or they're going to get reassessed on it. And that's going to create more sales for us. It already has to some degree. And then Prop 19 now allows sellers that if they're 55 years and older, they can move their tax base from one home to the other. And they don't have to buy equal to or less than, they can actually buy more. And if they move from a house that's sold for, let's say, $1 million to a house that sells for $1.5 million, the only upgrade they get in taxes from what they had was that $500,000. The rest of that, even if their base was still at 500, when they sold it at $1 million, because they've been there forever, a lot of people here have houses like that, okay, then they'll only be reassessed for that extra step-up basis. That's a great thing. These are all things that are good for this market. I mean, honestly, the list of what's good for this market is longer than the list that was good for last year's market, in my opinion. Now, the other thing is many agents are going to be negative about this market, and if you're not, that's to your advantage. It's not the time to be negative, okay? And again, I'm not asking you to go out there and say, oh, this is the greatest market ever, but I think you can do what I'm doing. I like this market because now buyers and sellers are on equal ground, okay? Last year, it was kind of like it was a tug of war, and you know the sellers were on the downhill, they could pull you down, and the buyers were on an uphill. How are they going to possibly win? That's not the case this year. I love this middle market that we're in. It might move even to our little buyer friendly. I could handle that for a while, okay? Sellers have had it good for a long time, okay? So our job as an agent, What is it? How has it changed? It hasn't changed. What's our job? Who knows what our duty to our clients are? Anyone on my team? Come on.
Protect you, save you, and make your money.
Yep, there you go. Save you money, make you money, save you money, and protect you. That's still our job. We just go about it a little differently to do it, but it's still the same job. So no matter what market we're in, our responsibility is the same to our client. Now this next slide is for Jimmy and Jake. Okay. Their dad shared this with me from the conference the other day. And I said, you got to text this over to me. Because we were talking about last markets and things like that. We're at the Tom Ferry. So this was, who's he look most like, Jimmy or Jake? Jake, right?
Just the
Jimmy?
He's got my hairline.
Okay. How many people think he looks most like Jake? Jim Sr. Who most like Jimmy?
Jimmy.
Okay, there you go, Jimmy. Okay.
Very
So,
well.
I don't know. I think he's kind of a mix. So, fortunately, you both look more like your mom. That's a good thing.
Thank God.
So, what stands out? This is hard to see. There's two things that really stand out to me about this flyer. What are they?
Assumable loan.
Assumable loan at what?
No qualifying.
Yeah, but at how much?
100,000.
No, no.
Oh.
16%.
16%.
16%. In other words, this was better to assume this is 16% than go out and get other financing. This was circa 1982.
Send that to us.
Oh, yeah, if you want it, I got it. I think I got it. So take a picture of it if you want
That was
to.
1982.
I think it was 82. That was our best guess on
I
it.
do tell people when I bought my first home, I think it was 12% in 91.
Yeah. So we're complaining, and I'll tell you what. There's a lot of people in the business right now in real estate have been in the business, less than 10, even less than 5 years. We don't know anything other than what we've learned in 5 or 10 years. There's different markets, guys, and these markets are still fun. They're fun in different ways, and they bring different challenges. And if we adapt to them, we're going to get a bigger market share because of it. So anyway, 1982. Well, there's one thing that stands out with 16%. What else stands out on it?
4 bedrooms.
4 bedroom. Yeah.
13.
The price, $131,000.
$131,000.
This is a house in Lake Forest. Probably, you guys know that name. 850, 950, 900,000 right now for that house, you think?
Um,
$999.
that's a 3-car garage, Ed, so it's probably
Oh,
more
is it
than-
3-car
more
garage?
than $1 million.
Okay, there you
Holy
go.
moly.
So it's gone up 7 times. 7 times. So
And the city was called El Toro.
yeah, it was called El Toro, not Lake Forest, by the way. Lake Forest had its own area. This was the unincorporated. Well, it was all unincorporated back then, but in El Toro, which now changed. So anyway, I love that flyer, and I love the things that we have, and that's what it used to be like. Okay. So, so let's talk about just some steps to thrive in this market. And I'm going to talk a little bit about theory, then I'm going to get into some real, how to do. So steps to thrive in this market. First of all, embrace this market. Okay, if you're negative, you're going to fail in this market. But aren't you going to fail in anything if you're negative? Nobody wants to deal with you. I mean, you want to be positive about this market. Okay, and let's say you're meeting with a seller, and the seller is having more trouble selling. What I would focus on is it's going to be tougher to sell right now. But look at the run-up you had in prices. What you're going to take away is so much more. And then they might say, well, yeah, what if I'd sold in March, January, February, March? I said, if you had sold in January, February, March, because you knew ahead of time that was going to be good, you'd have been a genius. Okay? Because no one can pick the market just perfect. In fact, the people that do the best in picking the market, whether it be stocks, real estate, or anything, what do? What do they do?
It's right after it turns.
Okay, what they do is they let it go all the way up because you don't know when it's going to hit the peak, right? You don't know. And so in other words, here it goes, okay? Here's the market. It's like this. It goes up here. Okay, do you sell right here? No. Why don't you? Because you're not that smart. All of a sudden it levels off, starts to go down. You sell here, not down here, okay? But you sell here because you always have profit. There's, there are a couple of rules in investing. Number 1 is don't ever lose money. Okay? Number 2 is pay attention to rule 1. Okay, that's the number. I think Buffett said that. That's not my saying. He said that. But the point of this is that's when people sell. Now's a great time to sell. So unless you were just lucky or genius or know more than anyone else in the world, no one really knew. Okay, so Selling right now is still a great advantage, okay? Be confident, similar to, I have a video on 805 Academy. You should go and watch it. It's called Delivering Good News in a Bad Way. This is the same thing in this market. Let's say we're meeting with a seller who's having trouble selling their market. They still don't want you crying about this market. They don't want you being negative. They want you being positive and in control. You are still the captain of that ship, and they want a captain of the ship. Somebody, who was telling me this the other day, it was somebody from the team, they were on an airplane, and they thought about me when they were on the plane. Verity. She's on the plane. It was a young pilot. He gets on there and says, we're going to go through some turbulence. Let's just hope we can all get there safely. And I'm thinking, and she was saying, I remember the video that you did. He goes, I wanted to get off the plane. Now, I've never heard a captain talk about that. I'm sure they're trained better than that. But he actually said that. No, you don't say that. We're going through some turbulence. Okay, this is standard. I want to let you know so it doesn't shock you when we go through it. Everything's going to be fine. It'll be a few minutes. I'll let you know when you can take your seatbelts back off. Right? Isn't that the way they say it?
Yep.
Well, the same thing here. They want us in control, okay, and we never are going to say, I don't know what to do. After you've had that listing for months and months, don't ever say, I don't know what to do. You've always got something else to do. It might just be lower the price, but you've always got something else to do. So the other thing we need to do is we need to be empathetical towards our clients that are struggling in this market. Just like we were last year for buyers, when we had a buyer that we'd make 3 offers on a property, on different properties, and they didn't get it, we need to be empathetical by saying, hey, I know this is really tough. I feel for you. I know what maybe I don't know what you're going through, but I have a great, empathy for what you're going through. And I look forward to the day I hand over your keys to your new home and we can actually say, we did it, okay? So they still need empathy, guys. Don't, you need to be in control, but don't lose your empathy towards people that may struggle in this market, your clients, okay? And visualize yourself as doing well in this market. I'm going to end with a story on that on my talk today. Actually, the reason why I put this story in is because Tom Ferry talked about it, but a way better story than he has. That's why I'm telling you. So, anyway, I want to talk about a situation room. Who knows what a situation room is? There's a what is? Okay, what is?
Amy.
Amy, what is it?
It's a meeting of minds.
Okay, kind of, yeah, it is. But what is the situation room? Okay, I'll give you a hint. West Wing.
White House.
White House.
When
Okay. What is the West Wing of the White House? Does anyone know?
The situation.
It's where all the presidential offices are at, right? That's known as the West Wing. There used to be a series, I never watched it, but I know what the West Wing is. It's a series of offices. In that is the situation room. If you go on here, I don't want to put this up because I don't want to sound political, but you can watch Obama in there as they're taking out, who was
Bin
it?
Laden.
Yeah, Bin Laden. As they're literally taking out Bin Laden, they're in the situation room. And there's several other presidents in there that they have big meetings and big things that happen from that room. We need to understand that we need to have a situation room with our clients. We are too much sometimes of let's just go out there and let's get a sign on it and sell it, or let's just get them on a car and go do this. We need to now have our own situation room, and our situation room will be our office for a buyer, will be their, maybe their dining room table for a seller, but we need to have a situation room. So the first time, so again, this is so important. Please don't overlook this. I'm going to give you 3 examples of this. Okay, the first one is your listing presentation. I like to call it seller consultation because nobody wants a presentation. It sounds one way, but it's the seller consultation. Or you can call it a listing presentation, seller consultation. So, by the way, there's a video that I go through and role play a complete seller presentation, listing presentation on 805academy.com. So you can watch the whole thing if you want to.
Super agent?
Pardon?
Password is still super.
Super agent, all lowercase, 805academy.com. And it's about an hour long. I actually go through the whole thing. And the main thing I want you to see in that is how what we present is really not how great we are. I do that in about a minute. The rest of it, the other 45 minutes, is what we do for them to get their home sold. Okay? But I'm not trying to go to this so much. The seller consultation, the first time you meet with a seller, I always have a 4-step system. First thing I want to do, I want to walk through the home with the clients, okay? I'm going to always meet at the door. I always say, where would you like to sit at to discuss things when we're done? And I don't care where they're going to say. I always give them the advantage. The first choice to do it. They almost always say the dining room table. But if they don't, then I'm going to say, would you mind if we went to the dining room table? Well, I'm going to ask them, where do you want to meet? Because they're going to usually say dining room table. If they happen to say living room, I'm going to go, just kind of like it wasn't really planned, just, would you mind if we kind of did the dining room? I've got some things I want to lay out. So we go to the dining room. Then I go through the home, and I always tell them, I want to go through this home, and I want to see this home through your eyes. Why you like it and what you bought it. And that time is to two things. First of all, to really meet and get to know them, get to connect with them, and then also I want to basically find out everything that I want to make comments in the home, and I want to let them know I like their home. Then we're going to go back to the table, and the second part, and this is what I really want to talk about, is we're going to have the situation room meeting. Okay, we're going to have a situation room meeting. Now, after this meeting, I'll just wrap up what we do. Then I go through the comparables, and then I do my listing presentation. Okay, I'm not going to share that with you today. I want to talk about the importance of the situation room. That's where my first question is Ruth, so explain your situation to me. This isn't about just selling a house. I want to know what your situation is. And I'm going to ask a lot of questions. So when you tell me that you've decided that you're going to move to Texas and you want to be close to family, and I'm going to ask you every question I can. I'm going to ask you questions like, I know how long you've been in that house because I've already got the information on that. I want to know where you went. Have you bought yet? Because why? If you haven't bought, what does that allow us to do? Refer them. The easiest money in real estate is refer them. I can't tell you how many times we have the advantage to refer a client to somebody else, get 25% for doing nothing. It's the best money in real estate, and we don't even ask that question. Okay? We don't even ask the question. And yet to them, if they're going somewhere and they haven't gone there yet, or even if they have but they haven't connected with an agent, they would love to have a high quality agent that they can work with. And you can find that person for them and then get 25% of all their work. How great is that? But you also want to find out what they bought at, how much they think they put into the house. I want to ask them if they understand the capital gains treatment that you get from the government, up to $500,000 per couple if you live there for 24 of the last 60 months. Okay, to let them know, or let them know that perhaps that they don't have this advantage of that. We have couples sometimes that are going through a divorce, and one couple says, well, I'm going to buy the house from the other one. And I say, well, I want to talk to them because I might find out that, well, wait a minute. If you do that, do you realize that your deduction to sell this house in the future is only $250, and you already have $500? So the spouse that's leaving is getting all that money for free, and you're taking on their tax burden when you sell? It's okay, they may want to do it, but they need to know. Now, everything that I give them is only knowledge that I have. I don't give them advice. I simply state what the laws are, okay? I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm just going to say, do you know this? And I'm always going to hedge the bet by the way, I strongly recommend you talk to an accountant about this unless you've made up your mind that you don't need to or whatever. Let's talk about Prop 19, okay? Prop 19, let's say they're selling and they're moving to somewhere else in California, they can transfer their tax base. Let's say they got the house through a death. They need to know that through Prop 19, they're going to be reassessed if they're not that. The whole point of this is every single thing that they need to know needs to come from you, okay? Now, I know we can make the statement that I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an advisor. Well, first of all, you are an advisor. Okay, there's nothing about our license that says we can't advise. We give real estate advice. And we just need to back up anything that we give to make sure, first of all, it's 100% accurate. And I can quote what the capital gains law is because I know what it is and I'm 100% sure that what I quote is exactly right. Okay, I can still say, now talk to your accountant, but I know it's right. I know what Prop 19 is when it deals with a death of a property or a reassessment for somebody over 55. Now, if they got into some great big, super, kind of examples that were kind of not mainstream, I'm not going to play with that. I'm going to say, talk to your accountant about that one. Okay. But here's the point, more than ever, it's always been necessary, but more ever than now, we're gonna have our seller consultations, okay? And we're gonna, so just think of this, okay? Is that we are basically, gonna sit down and do real consultation with our people. And it's not about trying to get a sign up as quick as we can. It's about representing it from A to Z, okay? From the cradle to grave on this transaction they're doing, okay? That's the whole idea. Situation room, that's one thing. The next one is a buyer consultation, okay? Buyer consultation is similar. I don't know a lot of people that do that. We do one. Oh, by the way, it's on 805academy.com if you want to see me actual role play that. But when you meet with that buyer, that meeting is so important. I can't tell you how important it is. It bonds you to them. If you have trouble keeping buyers, just do buyer consultations, and believe me, you will not be losing buyers. And again, that is a situation room meeting to where when you meet with them, you're going to find out everything about their situation, okay? Everything about their situation. Because these are things that when you give them advice, it can make a difference. Let me tell you a quick story. It's a friend of Corey's. I will call him Christian because that was his name. And
It's creative.
he ended up having a home that he lived in Costa Mesa. A realtor came around and it was like, over $2 million property a little over a year ago. They came and said, I've got a buyer for your home right now. Would you like to sell? He goes, yeah, I'd love to sell. So they closed escrow in 2 weeks. Guess what? He closed escrow in 2 weeks short of him living there 2 years. It cost him $80,000 not to close that 2 weeks later. Now, was it that agent's responsibility? I think it was. But was he legally bound to tell him that he had a tax obligation? No. Okay, when I found that out, I didn't tell him either. I told Corey, my son, I said, you want to tell him you can, I'm not going to. I'm not the bearer of bad news. But the whole idea of this is the situation room with a good agent would have taken care of that. Even the agent coming by could have said, listen, I'm representing seller and buyer in this situation. Or even if I'm not, I want you to know about the tax consequences. We could close 2 weeks later and it's going to save you $80,000. So that's a big deal. Okay, so again, we're going to talk about the tax benefits of owning a home. You need to know what that is. There's a program on there that you can actually get. It's called Buyer Advantage, I think. There's a couple of, or Buy versus Sell. And there are programs you can plug in numbers, and it literally does a printout of the advantage of buying a home. Okay.
Over renting.
Huh?
Over renting.
Yeah, over renting. And so help them strategize. So again, if you're talking about Prop 19, you're not giving legal advice, you're just quoting what Prop 19 is. So the whole idea is you're working together with them to strategize before you find them that perfect home, and you're talking about everything you can. Now, also, one of the things I see a lot of agents miss on this, you meet somebody in an open house, and they say, we're going to be in the market to buy a home in 6 months from now. And you go, oh, great, I'll give you a call in 6 months. No, talk to them right now, because you can strategize right now for 6 months out. Let me ask you this. Knowing what you know, okay, if you had, let's say, in my case, my kids have all bought, but let's say I had a son or daughter who's going to buy, and they're going to buy in 6 months. Am I going to tell them, let's come back to me in 6 months? No, I'm going to say, let's meet right now. This is the process we went through years ago. I want to get them pre-approved. I want to let them know what the process is. I want to go through all of this so they can, first of all, start to look forward to it. And the next thing is be prepared for it. So when you meet somebody and open a house and they say 6 months, don't wait 6 months. Do it right now. There's no better time than now. By the way, that's good, solid advice. Who knows? They might have a FICO score that's going to hurt a little bit, but if they had a 6 month strategy they could work out with their lender to get that FICO score up higher, it might be the difference in buying a home and not buying a home, simply because they met early, okay? So again, you want to do that. Now the third one I want to talk about, and this is the one I really want to talk about today, because this is what we're going to be needing, and this is price reduction, okay? We're going to start having listings, okay, in the market where, guess what? The first listing agent on average does not sell that home. In fact, in 1992, on average, the third listing agent sold the house. Which meant if you were the first or second agent and you weren't very good, or not good at least in their eyes, you're going to lose money. You put all this money into it, listing expires, they move on to agent 2, and then if you happen to be agent 3, by then, guess what? The market has educated them, because their other agents obviously didn't, and now this agent got lucky and get it. Now, In 1992, for much of that year, Angie and I carried over 40 listings. Okay, we had as many as 46 listings at one time. Most of our career, we would carry 10 to 25 listings. Okay, because the market time wasn't as quick as it is right now. And guess what? That was one of our best years ever, and the reason it was is because we became the first and last listing agents with our listings. But you have to be good to get that, because they will not keep you around. If you're negative, you're afraid of this market, you talk about how bad it is, you don't have new ideas, you don't adjust, you don't meet with them, guess what? You're not going to be, there's going to be a second and third agent. So that's why you need to, first of all, when you meet, we talked about, having a situation room, but throughout this listing, you need to. It's worth it, by the way, to meet more than one time. Our average commission on our team this year is over $22,000, which is probably the average for Regency, okay? That means that for $22,000, can't you meet with them a couple more times and be in touch with them? I mean, if you had to put an extra 10 hours in that for $25,000, I don't know how much you guys make, but I don't make more than that, okay? And if you do, you're probably a rock star, and you're not in real estate anyway, okay? So that's what's really important. Now, when I meet with a listing presentation or for a price reduction meeting, I first of all never call it a price reduction meeting. Why? Because it's negative, right? I never call it that. I never call it that. I want to meet with them for just to get together, to review the market and kind of focus on things. And I want to bring you up to date with what's going on in the market. Now, let's say you've been in the market for 4 weeks. You clearly see that home is overpriced. Don't do that meeting over the phone. Don't just say, let's reduce, let's reduce, let's reduce. Any agent can do that, and you'll probably become the first agent, but you won't be the second and not the third, if that's the way it goes, okay? So you want to meet with them. The first thing I like to do is I have a sheet I lay out for them. That sheet says staging, marketing, and pricing on it. Just 3 things. And I tell them that when we first met and I went through the listing presentation with you at our listing consultation, remember I said the formula of selling your home is staging, marketing, and pricing? So let's review where we're at, because it's still the same formula and we haven't done, it hasn't got done yet, okay? There's one thing that I think is always important for you guys to realize, and if you don't, it's gonna hurt you with your interaction with them, is that the little thing that everybody on my team has heard this before, and probably some people here, that when you're on the market, it is dog years to your client. When they go on every week, every day is like a week, okay? A dog year is 7 years, right? If they're on the market for a week, it's like they've been on for 7 weeks. So you think you don't want to meet with them for a few weeks or for a couple months. Well, it's like for them, it's like they've been in the market forever, okay? Ever have an event in your life you're looking forward to that maybe is 30 days off, and you're really looking forward to this? I mean, it seems like forever until that happens, right? Because it's so important to you and you're so focused on it. That's what they are going through with their listing, okay? So you can't wait 45, 60, 90 days to meet with them. I usually think 2 to 4 weeks at the most. And by the way, that's after you've had several conversations with them to start with, okay? Then, okay, I go over this thing, which I call staging, marketing, pricing. I just lay a sheet down that talks about that. And I want to talk about those in that order, always in that order. The staging, we're going to go through, if they completely stage their home, then I'm going to probably say we've done a really good job of staging. The only thing I might possibly talk about is have they maintained their home throughout the market period. Because just staging it, you could go in there and you could remodel your home completely, but if all of a sudden the house is a mess, it's no longer really staged, okay? So you need to talk about the staging and also the upkeep of the staging, okay? When we were doing listings, we had a gal, we had 4 assistants. One of our assistants, her job on Monday was, and sometimes Tuesday, to go to every one of our listings. She would do a walk through the listings. We get a report back on Wednesday when we had a team meeting, and it would give me the condition of every property on Monday when they went through it. I want to know if the beds aren't being made. I want to know if, the brochure box back then, the brochure wasn't full. She'd fill it that day. If the sign's not clean. If anything's not right, if their flowers that we put out for seasonal flowers are dying, I want to know. Why? Because it's important. It's very important. So again, I want to go through staging. Then I'm going to go through marketing. marketing is gonna be, now we might have some new ideas for staging, okay? But then we're gonna go through marketing. We're gonna talk about what we've done in order to market this home and how successful it has been or hasn't. I kind of review what we've done, kind of a list. I usually give them a page that has a list of at least 15 or 20 things that we've done so they can see what we've done, because they might know it, but when they see it again, they go, wow, look at all they're doing on my home. One of the examples I like to use is 2 agents on a house. One agent doesn't do very much, okay, but calls the client every day or texts the client every day, is in constant contact. The other one does a lot but never calls his client. Which one is doing a better job? Well, the better job might be done by the person doing it all, but the seller's gonna think the better job is being the one who's staying in contact. So don't think because things aren't happening, you don't wanna stay in contact. That's when you wanna stay in contact more than ever, okay? So stay in contact. So we talk about marketing, what we've done, and no matter what I've done so far, I'm gonna come up with some new things. It might be a repeat of what we've already done. It might be calling past agents to let them know if we do have a price reduction, things like that. Whatever it might be, there's gonna be a list before I leave of some new things we're gonna do. Be prepared to do some more things for that listing, whatever it might be. Some of them are repeat, some of them might be first time things. And then we're gonna talk about pricing. How can we talk about pricing last? Okay, I don't think you have the right to talk about pricing until you have a right to tell them what you've done to get this home sold. Okay, and it's also a lot easier if you've done that. Once they come there and they've seen all that you've done, then they're gonna be more likely to want a price reduction. If you went to talk about price first or second, they might say, listen, you're gonna talk about price market. Will you tell me what you've done to get this home sold first? Okay, but you don't need to this way. You've already done that. So pricing comes third, okay? And then go through the pricing and then talk about pricing. What's one of the most important things about pricing? Called bracket pricing. What is bracket pricing? Who can explain it?
The range.
Yeah, not range pricing. Okay, range pricing is different. Range is like you listed a home between, $975 and $1 million. That's range pricing. Bracket pricing. So bracket pricing is.
Ed, you would stay answer.
Oh,
Well, we always,
Yeah.
Jan has a good theory on that, but whenever you're bracket pricing, you want to keep it buyers are looking up to a certain price bracket. So like you don't want to list it like 801 or 810.
Right.
They're going to be looking up to 799.
so you don't want to list it at 810. You want to list it at what, Dave?
Well, 799, and there's brackets at like 775, 750.
What's the biggest bracket in real estate today?
Biggest bracket? Probably $1 million.
Million is the biggest bracket, okay? Because that's the average price range in Orange County. It actually just dropped to 982, but and that's based on median price they buy. So again, that is the biggest. Dave's absolutely right. Is $1 million. If you were to list a property right now at $1.010 million, you'd have to be an idiot. Okay, but to list the property at $1 million even or $999.9, then you've got it. Because when Dave's buyer, he plugs in his buyer that's looking up to $1 million. What are you looking at? Between what and what?
You're looking between probably 9 and $1 million or 950 and $1
Yeah,
million.
9 and $1 million, maybe 950 and $1 million. So you want a bracket price. Make sure that when you do your price reduction, you bracket price, and don't get a $5,000 price reduction. It's not going to help. Not unless you're over bracket, you bring it down. You need to get your pricing down to where it needs to be, and you need to be smart about this. There's a thing called cutting off the market. Anyone know what cutting off the market is? This is my term, so if you don't know what it is, I don't know how you'd know unless you could read my mind or heard me talk before.
Is that like chasing the market down?
Yeah,
That's what I was
okay.
thinking.
So chasing the market down is the exact opposite of cutting the market off. Okay, let's say right now for this house, we got a house worth $990,000. Okay, but we're listed at $1,125,000. In 6 months from now, this home might be worth $975,000. Okay, so if in 6 months from now we reduce this price to $975,000, that's no better than right now at $990,000. And all we're doing is chasing the market down at the same rate that it's going down. Now remember when I said earlier what was great about last year's market? If you missed in the price, don't worry, you'll catch up tomorrow. This is just the opposite, okay? You don't want to chase it down, you want to cut it off. And I talk to my sellers about that, usually not on the first time I go for a price reduction, but the second time I go for a price reduction, I'm going to talk about cutting the market off. And what I'm going to talk about is again, you're like that airplane pilot, you're delivering bad news in a good way, but it's real news. And don't they deserve that? You know, a lot of times you can ask if you ever asked a client, this question, I know the answer. If I said, Ruth, I just want to ask you a question. As I go forth in being your seller's agent or your listing agent, do you want me to be honest with you at all times? Okay, you know, okay, that's pretty obvious, right? Okay, I promise you that. Now, going forward, you can say, remember when I promised you to start with? I'd be honest with you at all times. I need to be honest with you. This market has taken a hit on us. If we want to get it sold, we're going to have to do some things that might appear drastic today, but looking back, they will probably appear to be very mild. Okay, so again, that's something we need to do.
And could you just casually role play? Let's say you had taken the listing at $1 million, and then you reduced it to whatever you want to say you reduced it to, and now you're going in that second time, and you're bringing out the staging, marketing, pricing. How are you going to talk to them at that point about, you know, the pain that you're asking them to take the really big pain pill?
Yeah, so we talk about staging, and here's, I use this staging to give them a compliment in most cases. When I can look at them, I can say, Joseph, you have done an amazing job of staging this house, not only staging it, but maintaining it. So you're doing everything I ask of you. And I wish I had all my clients were like that, but all I can say is, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Okay, so you start off with a compliment. You compliment somebody else, it's harder for them to criticize you. Okay, then I get next to the market of what we did and what we're gonna do. And each time you do this, you have to do it. Now, I will tell you that as you go through these meetings, and you need more than a couple of them, sometimes when you call and you say, listen, I'd like to get together with you just to have a strategy meeting. I know we've done it in the past. They'll say, listen, let's just drop the price.
Because they know that's what it is.
What do you think? I mean, they've gone through it. They know where I'm at. They know I'm in control. And so and you get to where it's at. And guess what? One of the reasons why 1992, 3, and 4 were such great markets for Angie and I, we sold over 100 homes those years. The reason is because we got not only our listings that we got through our regular sources and contacts, we got so many of the homes that expired from other agents. And guess what? I felt like sending them a referral fee when I got there. Do you realize they've been on the market for 9 months now? And this poor seller is they're just devastated. And I walk in as a breath of fresh air. I could say anything and they'd say, do it. I could say, let's cut the price in half. They go, just do it. You know, that was set up by an agent not doing anything, and also set up by the market talking to them over 6 months. Right, Pat? How many times would you go and get a listing? I know you got listings too that were somebody else's listings. You go in there, it's kind of like, look at the work they did for me. Okay? So, again. So this is going to be a very important part of this market, is getting price reductions. And if you can do that, not only will it get you those listings sold, it's going to get you other referrals as well. Because the best way you get referrals is to create an amazing client experience and show them how knowledgeable you are in what you do. Two most important things. Yeah. Chris?
What if you have a seller that wants to sell because their dream is to live somewhere else, but they need so much money out of the house, so they can only lower the price so much to be able to buy their next home?
Okay, so every once in a while, a lot of times clients love to put these numbers on us that we have to make, or they can't make their thing happen. It's kind of like, this is my bottom line. If you can't do this, I can't move. Okay, I can tell you that almost all the time there's more room. They didn't come with their bottom line. Almost always. I can't tell you how many times they say, well, we don't sell this in 2 more weeks, we're gonna have to rent it out. And 3 months later we sell it, right? I mean, they're just trying to put pressure on us. I mean, listen, when we go and we put a home in the market, it's one of our 4 most stressful times in a life, okay? Behind death, divorce, job change, there comes number 4, buying or selling a home. And sometimes it's more stressful than the other 3. So,
or there's a combo.
Yeah, or a lot of times they're a combo. So you get that, and they're gonna try to put pressure on us. But in most cases, I try to work with that, okay? But then I also kind of understand that that's probably not their bottom. And I'm not gonna say like Ruth, if I know we can't hit that number, well, you just have your listing back right now.
Well, the other thing too is the market is the market, and
The
so
market's gotten worse everywhere.
everywhere else. So if they
Yeah.
have to come
That's
down,
it.
chances are whatever they're looking at is their optimum.
It's gone down.
I remember Michaela having that really tough listing, that Back to Busy Street, one of her early listings.
Santa Margarita, yeah.
Yeah, and she just struggled through that, and in the end, she was able to put together a dynamo transaction for them on the other side and get this one sold.
So afraid she's gonna lose the listing because she's 23 years old, her first listing in the business, and really Back to a Busy Street, they thought it was worth way more. They thought it was worth all the homes that had views, right? And obviously that's not the
It
case.
did have a view. of the
Yeah,
street.
it did have views. So, and Jimmy, you know what you do when you have something back to a freeway, right?
You have put a water feature in the backyard.
Water feature in the
She did
backyard,
do
or
that.
you take them back and blindfold them and just say, I want you to visualize the Pacific Ocean back
The
there,
ocean.
because that's what the ocean sounds like. Don't do that, I'm kidding, don't do that.
Close your eyes and pretend
Yeah.
it's the
But also, and I just want to add to what you're saying here is, I think the marketing piece, when you're talking about the staging, marketing, pricing, and two agents, the one that told what they were doing, the one that didn't. I think with marketing, because it sometimes doesn't feel like we're doing enough, is tell them what you're going to do, tell them that you did it, and then tell them what you're going to do again. It's
Right.
like, it's kind of looking back, present, and future, and kind of covering all those bases. So you're kind of talking about the same thing 3 times, which helps. And then also you said it, but you kind of went through it fast, is calling and talking to them on a regular basis, like at least weekly.
Yeah.
You want to talk to your listings.
I would never leave an appointment without texting them on my way, I'd probably drive around the corner and text a client. I'd never have an appointment right now. Back then, we didn't even have text most of our, selling days. I would always drive around the corner and text them something. I'm glad we're able to meet right now. I think we're gonna put a new integer in your home. I'm feeling optimistic about it. Thanks for being such great clients to work with. Okay? Yeah, ma'am?
Do you use a professional stager, and if you do, who pays for it?
Yeah, so I definitely believe in professional staging, and I also believe that either you pay for it if there's enough commission, or they pay for it if there's not. The better way to go, honestly, is to get a reasonable commission and then pay for it. Now, we had a house that I helped Verity with, that I'd referred to her, and I think it cost us like $14,000 or $15,000 to stage. It was in Canyon Crest back then. Well, we told them that we'd stage it because they had bought a $3.5 million property through us, and they were listing at 2.5%. So I paid, we paid $14,000 to stage it. But in most cases, I would not do that unless I got a 3% on a couple $1 million home to pay that much. But I can tell you, get an extra 0.5%, and 0.5% on $1 million, that's enough money to do most of the staging you need. Okay. Now, if they start to do remodeling and things like that, then that's something different. Okay. So here's the thing: at the end of the meeting, you want to restate your plan going forward regarding the staging, marketing, and pricing, and then memorialize it in the email. But on the way home, I would text them and let them know how great it was to meet with them. So text that day, email the next day, and then stay in touch with them. Stay in touch with them. Stay in touch with them. And then I just kind of want to end. Any questions on this kind of part of it? This is I think the most important meeting that you're going to have these days is going to be with sellers who aren't getting homes sold.
Just to give perspective, I Googled it because I was curious, that a 90-day market period is actually a balanced market.
Yes.
Less than that is a seller's, more than that is a buyer's. And that, so we're still technically in a seller's market. And then also in those 92 years and probably 2009, the average market period was more like 9 to 12 months. It got,
Right.
and in some marketplaces even higher than that.
Yeah, and so, and we're going to see those. But those are okay. Those are good for the good agents because guess what? You're going to keep your listings and you're going to get some of the ones that the agents aren't willing to work on. And never have we had a more unprepared set of agents to go into this market because they haven't been in the business long enough to know what to do. And so there's going to be a lot of stuff. I mean, I got to tell you, it's going to be like low-hanging fruit for those of you who get this, for sure. So I just want to,
Over here.
yeah, yeah, I mean,
Just out of curiosity, we know some of the strategy of some of the agents in the past was that they were pricing the property low and they were creating a lot of activities to try to oversell. In this case, would that be something that should be entertained or not? Because if you go in at the price even at low, would the buyer think that okay, now you still have to drop from that price or not?
yeah. My fear is, and by the way, this is opinion, so this isn't like, this is the way, this is the truth. This is just my opinion. that you could get away with pricing it low in the market last year and the year before because there's enough buyers to bid it up. But right now, if you price it low, there may not be another buyer to help you bid it up. So you go out there and you get stuck lower than you should. I mean, my theory has kind of always been price it where it should be, and you can always go down a little bit. And by the way, when we drop the price, so let's say Amin is my client, and we put the home on, and when I list the property with Amin, he goes, no, I definitely want to list it at $1.1 million. Okay, I go, okay, well, that's a little bit higher than what the market's selling us. By the way, I never say that's higher than what I believe, because I don't want to that's not my opinion. I would tell him the market is telling us maybe something different. I blame it on the market, not me. Okay, that we don't have the same numbers. But hey, let's go out at $1.1 million. Okay, let's try that. Now we have our first meeting, and I say I think we need to get down. Maybe we need to get down as little as like $9.99 or $1 million. I'm not going to say you want to go out high to start with. Hey, that was okay. That's not what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, listen, I was the one who was fine with going out higher to start with because my goal is get the most I can. But now the market has spoken to me, and I really believe we need to reduce. I take the full blame. The full blame. He's going to know that it was really him, but he's going to know that, hey, listen, I got an agent he's my agent. He's taking a hit for me, right? I'm not going to say, I mean, you want to go to $1.1 million, obviously that didn't work.
Told you so.
Yeah, told you so. That's not a team. That's not a team. We're a team. I'm going to take the hit for you.
I have the same kind of question, so thank you for asking that, because I have a listing right now, and it was challenging because there weren't very many comps, so we kind of did the bracket, and we came right under the 700,000 price point, but they were hoping, because there was kind of a close one that sold for 770 down the street, but it's been on the market for 9 days now. I have a couple people interested, but it's at the high sixes, so I guess I don't know about doing a price reduction, right?
Well, you got to...
Because I came in lower than what they wanted.
Well, lower than what they wanted doesn't matter once you've been on the market for a while, because now the market spoke to them. Okay, and they'll overcome that.
Dog years too.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously. So they're starting to realize that, gee, we thought we could go over 7, but we're under 7, and it's still not happening.
Yes, I wanted to get more.
And the truth is, back to, I think buyers have a mindset right now that they wouldn't pay full price. They need to get something under. So, but again, time kind of corrects that in the minds of the seller, even if you're having to list it a little low.
So, Amina, you do a lot of real estate. I really have a high degree of respect for you. What would your answer be to your question?
I actually had a listing presentation. I listed a house property in Santa Monica, and that's why I brought it up, because the thought was that if we list it at the low property, much like what you just said, the buyer's going to want to come and still want to reduce from that price, because they're saying,
Right.
well, has there been a price reduction? Some of the buyers are not as educated out there, so they're not able to really discern from, between the agent who listed it at the right price, or it's an overpriced listing or underpriced listing. They look at the price, say, okay, at this now I got to get a good deal. So I want to try to negotiate the price lower.
There's an old saying, kind of a crude saying, but only Gentiles pay full price. But in our marketplace, most of us are Gentiles. So, we were used to paying full price, but we're not going to be used to paying full price pretty soon, and even now.
Yeah.
People want something off. So this idea that whatever you start with, it'll be higher, I think that's probably out the window.
Yeah, in my own case, I had a 2.8 property that comped for, appraised for, sold for, and just over the time, we had to just keep reducing the price. And even the new offers, after being 300, 200, 400 on the market, they still want to come under.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, they do.
there's no way to win.
And so part of me is like, do we price it higher because they want to see that arrow down? But what I did is I put in my home upgrade sheet, these are the comps that we went off of. Apples to apples sold for $775. So we're under those because of the change of the market. But not every agent share those with the buyers, but that was my thought process.
In fact, the seller was suggesting, let's list, just like you said, just list it at this number and do an immediate price reduction of $100,000 to show that we've reduced it already, so the buyer doesn't have that expectation to go even more.
See, I think the same thing. So I'm
That's
like,
kinda
are they
clever.
expecting
They
an
still
arrow?
want it lower than that arrow price.
Yeah, they do.
But also when a when a seller has an offer in front of them and there's been a little time lapse, they usually are more motivated and willing to work with something there too.
There's one of the statements that I've made to sellers before and I never tell them that this is what they're doing. I'm telling this is how I look at it. Anytime I sell a property and I make a counter offer to the other seller, to the buyer, I always look at this, is if I don't accept the offer in front of me, there's a very good chance I might be buying my house back. Okay? So when I've sold houses in the past, I've looked at that, and sometimes when maybe I want to make a counter offer, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I shouldn't. It's kind of like I always say, I could be buying my house back right now,
Okay.
and I want to sell it. Yeah.
Who's the best negotiator?
Who is?
The one that's willing to lose the deal?
Yeah, absolutely. There's by the way, I bought the book that Tom Ferry told us to get.
Oh, yeah.
Never Split the Difference.
Yeah, yeah.
So I haven't read it yet, but it was there when I got home. He recommended that book is really good, Never Split the Difference, which is kind of in line with what you're probably saying. By the way, and what Jimmy is saying is so true. And this is what I see with especially newer agents in the business, is you're so afraid to lose a deal, and the other agent can feel it all over. And if you're working with experienced agents, we can feel that. We know that we've got you. We know that because you know what? You're afraid to lose a deal. The way you get the best deal for your clients is not to be afraid to lose it. Now, I'm talking about you to other agents and stuff, not when you're working with your clients specifically. But when you're working with other agents, you got to talk like, hey, I hope this counteroffer works. If it doesn't, I certainly understand. Maybe we just couldn't come together.
It's kind of like the blinking game with our granddaughters.
Yeah.
It's like, who's going to blink first?
Yeah, I can't beat my granddaughter at blinking. Yeah. She blinks, I blink first every time. Yeah, Amy.
I was showing a property last week to a client. We saw it was at $1.2 million. Then that day, the agent texted me and said, what did your client thought? My client was kind of on the fence. They dropped the price $100K. We go back to see it again. There's 9 showings that day, and they got an offer by the end of the day. So when it is priced right, and this had no upgrades, it had a great view, but no upgrades. It was in Melinda Heights. And,
yeah, I think this is the point. We're still in a good market. 70 days, according to the report we just got, okay, from Stephen Thomas. Angie's making the statement, which has been said before, about 90 days out. We're still on the short side of average, so it still tilts a little bit towards a seller's market. We're just so much thinking it's this way that it's not that far anymore. So, okay, I'm gonna one of the things I kind of want to end with is just the power of visualization, and I think that this is something that as we go into new markets, you really do have to believe in yourself. And there's some great stories. There's one told the other day at the conference. I think I've got a better one. And this one was so good. And the reason I think it's so good, because I heard this many years ago from, who was it? Not Max. I can think of the guy. I can't remember his name.
Tommy
anyway,
Hopkins?
No, top trainer. Top trainer.
Ancient.
Anyway, you got him for Lakeview. Anyway.
Max Lucado?
No, not Lucado. But it was, Maxwell.
Oh, John Maxwell. Sorry.
Yeah, John Maxwell. Yeah. He told this story one time, and I loved it and reread it. I was going to tell it, but I didn't read it enough times to tell it, so I'm just going to read it. It's not that long. But it has to do with visualization and how important this is that you cannot, I've got a couple of comments I like down here, some great quotes on visualization. Visualize your success, then act. Losers visualize the penalties of failure. Winners visualize rewards of success. Visualization is the most important part of your mental game. Really true. You cannot achieve what you cannot perceive. Visualization is a human being's vehicle to the future good, bad, or indifferent. It's in our control. And so I just want to share this story. This is about James Nesmith, is his name. James Nesmith was an average golfer. He generally shot in the mid to low 90s, but dreamed of improving. However, his efforts to raise his golf game were interrupted by the war in Vietnam. Major Nesmith was captured and became a prisoner of war, where he spent 7 years in prison in a cage that was 4.5 feet long and 5 feet tall. During his imprisonment, he saw no one, talked to no one, had no physical activity. For the first few months, all he did was hope and pray for release. He soon realized that he had to find some way to occupy his thoughts or he would go insane. Nesmith devised a mental program in which he'd play his favorite golf course every day in his mind. He would visualize the experience to the highest level detail possible. He imagined the clothes he'd be wearing. He thought the smell of the freshly cut grass and the feel of warm sun and gentle breezes on his skin. He'd see every tee, hear the birds singing and the squirrels chattering, and envision every slope of the course. He would then grasp the club, feeling its rough grip with his fingers. He visualized taking his practice swing, addressing the ball, and hitting his shot. He'd watch the ball's arc as it flew beautifully, coming to a soft landing in the center of the fairway. In the real world, he was never in a rush. Golf was his escape, and he would take his time and enjoy every moment. He did the same in that small cage in Vietnam. He thought every step would even stop to get water, just as if he were there playing a real round of golf. He imagined golf took just as long as if it were physically on the course. He hit every shot, played every hole to its conclusion until the ball dropped to the bottom of the cup. He did this every day for 7 years. Here's where the story takes an amazing turn. So Major Nesbitt was finally released and came back home to America. Physically speaking, his condition had deteriorated as much as you would expect after living in a tiny cage for so long. Even so, after his return, he decided to go out and play golf at his favorite golf course. Amazingly, he shot a 74. He hadn't swung a real club in 7 years, and had undergone indescribable physical deprivation, and yet he had cut 20 shots off his average. I mean, this is a real story, and there's all kinds of real stories about the ability to visualize something, and I really do believe that you cannot perceive, you cannot achieve what you cannot perceive. And so, along with all the steps that we do to become better, the plan and all of the work that we put into it, don't forget that we need to also put this visualization together too. So, okay, that's it. Any questions? If you want, we've gone on a little longer than I wanted to. I'm here afterwards if you guys want to talk. If not, then thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.